Hi, it's like 10 o'clock at night on Wednesday, June 18th. I just got home from volunteering at the Park Rose Night Market. It's hosted by Historic Park Rose, and normally my family just goes and attends, but this year I volunteered to help run a booth for Indivisible. And I worked with 3 other ladies who were really, really awesome, and I appreciated being able to have the opportunity to talk with folks from my own neighborhood about the pro-democracy work of Indivisible. It was really great. I had a really good time. I'm not actually that extroverted in real life, and so it's pretty exhausting for me to have to be on and people with other people for several straight hours. But I got to chat with a bunch of folks I know who live in my neighborhood and who live in Maywood Park and Wilkes and some of the other surrounding neighborhoods, Park Rose Heights, Russell. I got to have really good Indian tacos. I bought some hot sauce from the booth next to us, and then I bought some smoked salmon from some folks who had caught it at the booth across from us. We got to walk and see Olive, the neighborhood pig, and give her some scritches. Anyway, it was a really good time. But I don't know, I was thinking during the whole event, just how good it is to have community with people, how good it is to connect with folks who live around you, and how important that, focus on blooming where you're planted is. I know I say it a lot, but we have the greatest amount of influence right outside our back door. We have the ability to do the most good right in our own neighborhoods, right in our own towns and cities. What a fascist regime wants is for us to be isolated. Sorry, I'm eating popcorn while I'm talking. What a fascist regime wants, put that down, is for us to be isolated and to make it easier for them to control us, right? We have strength in numbers. When we stand together, when we support each other, we are able to resist the kind of cruel, chaotic, awful things that this regime wants to do to us. They count on us being fractured and isolated in order to control us. And the first and best place that we can form connections so that we can create that scaffolding, that structure, that support network that will help us all stand strong is right where we live. And so I was thinking about community as resistance, right? If we're looking at a fascist regime, and what their preference is for us to be isolated and alone, friendless, lonely, easy to control. Well, what they want us to be, we need to be the opposite, right? They are afraid of us forming bonds together. They are afraid of us joining together and finding our strength in each other. So if community is resistance, if community is the antidote to the isolationism that this regime wants to do to every single individual American, and then also wants to do to us as a nation, right? They want to isolate each of us from our neighbors. They want to isolate each of us from our communities. They also want to isolate us as a nation from our friends, right? Trump has really, really been trying hard to piss off all of our allies and friends and make us be very, very friendless, so that the only 2 friends that we have are other authoritarian states controlled by other megalomaniacal, egotistical narcissists like Putin and Netanyahu. And that, Israel and Russia, they're not our friends. So he wants us to be very friendless as a nation. He wants us to be friendless as individuals, because authoritarians know that connection and community and that shared aggregated power and strength is how we are able to defeat that. So there is the level at which community is important just for us as social human beings, right? It's so important that we make an intentional effort to reforge those community bonds, that we have those relationships, that we make a conscious effort to not let ourselves be isolated, to not let ourselves be lonely. But then there's also the level at which it's just practical, strategic, effective resistance to take the time and invest in forming community. Investing in community right now, social bonds with each other, that's not like some luxury that we don't have time for. It's a necessity right now. It really has been a necessity to us all along, but we've been sort of ignorant, unaware of the ways that we are all suffering and we are hurting from having a lack of community. We've become kind of numb, kind of adjusted to it. It's become very normalized for us, especially since COVID, to be very isolated. And so for our own mental and psychological and social well-being, as well as our physical well-being, right, we can help meet each other's real physical, tangible needs when we are connected and we're communicating and we know what our neighbors need and our neighbors know what we need, and we're able to step in and support each other. Like, oh, my neighbor is housebound. Okay, well, I'm going to, the grocery store already. I will pick up a couple things for her and I'll swing by the pharmacy for her. Oh, my neighbor just had surgery. Okay, well, I can bring them dinner. Oh, my neighbor had a baby. Same thing. I can bring them dinner. Oh, I need to borrow a chainsaw and mine's broken. Okay, well, I can just ask if somebody in my neighborhood has one that I can borrow. Oh, I know that those folks at the end of the block, that they are really struggling right now, and they're looking at the loss of programs and benefits that normally would have been social safety nets the government helped make sure provided for their needs. Those are now going away because Donald Trump and Elon Musk have slashed all kinds of programs so that billionaires can get a tax break. So that means that my neighbors are struggling to have their basic needs met. Okay, it's now time for us in the community to step in and make sure their physical needs are met, that their children do not go hungry. All right, so we are meeting each other's physical needs as a community. We're meeting each other's social needs, emotional needs, but also on a very practical, strategic level, we are building resistance at the same time. One of the things I've really been thinking about a lot the last few days is the ICE protests here in Portland. And obviously, I think it's on a lot of our minds how we protect our communities from ICE. And specifically, when we're looking at the ICE detention facility on Macadam Avenue here in Portland, there are all these various different groups that protest. My Indivisible chapter protests every Monday afternoon. I believe there's a Quaker church group that protests. There's at least one other Indivisible group that protests. There is a sustained protest right now of a lot of young people who are basically camped out there. But we don't all communicate that well. There's a couple other groups in town as well, and immigrants' rights groups. And I'm like, okay, well, these are all local people. What do we need to do to form community and connection and communicate with each other better and aggregate our power, right? Build our strength. When we're looking at any of the elements of resistance, the ways that we make those elements be more effective, able to better achieve their goals is that we look at connecting with other people who are like-minded and have shared interest. But the answer to all of these situations is community. The answer to everything that we're facing right now is to build community on a very local level and in ways that don't seem like they might necessarily be directly connected to resistance work. Like, okay, Parkrose Night Market, I'm supporting local businesses, I'm chatting with my neighbors, we're out having a good time, we're listening to music, and we're just chilling, enjoying a summer evening. But we're cementing those relationships with each other. We're making sure people know, like, hey, if you need me, I'm here for you. Chatting with my neighbor who works at the VA, how's it going over there? Is there some way that I can support you? Chatting with my other neighbor who had a knee replacement, like, oh, you're up and getting around, you look really good, how are you feeling? Getting to know children in the neighborhood. All of that is really important, just those very basic elements of community that for a lot of us have fallen by the wayside since COVID, or maybe even beforehand, right? Depending on where you live, so many places in America have really been struggling to have functional community for a long time. And the political climate since 2016 has made it even more difficult. We are suspicious of our neighbors. We're afraid of our neighbors. We don't know what their politics are. We don't know if they're safe people for us. And again, the cult of MAGA, Donald Trump, has intentionally fostered that fear and distrust. It isolates us even further, makes us easier to control. And we've got to counteract that in every possible way, in the ways that feel like they are very intentionally political, in ways that feel like they are strategic. When we're talking about building community, it doesn't mean that those are people that you necessarily like. You don't have to love everybody. Not everybody in your community has to be your bosom friend. People in your community can be really, really freaking irritating. They can be people that you would not necessarily pick to hang out with under other circumstances, but they are people that you can have solidarity with, and they're people that you can lean on when times are difficult. They're people that you can coordinate with to care for others in your community. Okay, and I know this is like 10:30 at night and my brain's a little fried now, but the whole evening at this night market, I just kept thinking over and over and over again, like, the answer is community. The answer to all of this, the strategy, the way out of this horrible thing that we are going through right now as a nation, it's community. It's the thing that the Trump regime fears most. It's the thing that we need most. It's the thing that will give us the power and the support and the quality of life that we need to get through all of this. So those are my late night thoughts. What do they call that? Like Angela After Dark is what they say on TikTok when you make these late night think pieces. But I don't know, y'all. What can you do to foster community where you are? What can you do to help reforge those bonds? Both for effective resistance, but just also because you need it and you deserve it.